everybody. I missed you guys. Welcome back. So, this week we are going to be reading, or I guess today, Tuesday, we're going to be reading a new story. And this one, actually, of all the stories that we've done so far, is definitely my favorite. So, this story is called When Jessie Came Across the Sea. So, all of us come to our reading community with different interests, identities, and strengths as readers. Who are we affects what we read. Our reading lives are made up of different kinds of texts, various purposes for reading, and a range of ways that we carve out in reading time. What we read fills our reading baskets, something we are going to pay attention to this year in the variety of our reading. One way that we can create reading variety is by reading across different genres. So, genre, you may have heard referred to as music as well. It's just basically giving a more descriptive aspect of the book or the music. So, we're going to talk about some popular fiction genres. So, the first one is historical fiction, which, fun fact, that's what we're going to be reading about. Um, so, historical fiction is a story that takes place in a particular time period or the past. Realistic fiction is a made up story that could actually happen. So that makes sense if it's realistic. I am having such a hard time talking. If it's realistic fiction, that means that it really could happen. So kind of like an everyday kind of situation. Then there's fantasy, which is a book with magic or talking animals. So think kind of something maybe you read when you were little, a Disney story, anything kind of along those lines. And then there's folktale slash fairy tale, and this is a made up story that's passed through generations. And a lot of folktales and fairy tales are going to have that magic element or talking animals, but the difference is that folktales and fairy tales are passed down. So it can be one, but maybe not both. So both of them could have the magic aspect, but maybe only one of them was passed down, which is how you tell the difference. And then our next category is mystery. And I know that a lot of y'all like this category from what I've heard so far. Suspenseful story that involves clues and a puzzling event. So kind of think along the lines of Scooby-Doo or Nancy Drew or the Boxcar series. Any of those are going to be mystery. So it's where you're trying to solve something normally. And then there's adventure slash action, and that has danger and risk, a journey. It's usually very exciting. So think about like an action movie. It's going to be really fast paced. And then there's poetry. So a story with rhymes and patterns. But let's get started. Remember, we have our stop and jot. So this is going to be for When Jessie Came Across the Sea, and there's going to be 3 parts. So I literally just wrote stop and jot, and I want you to do the same thing in your notebook. I want you to write stop and jot, and then When Jessie Came Across the Sea, and underline it because it is a book. And remember, our stop and jots start with I think or I wonder. So I've filled out a box to have 8 because that's how many I know I have for this. But yours could be more along the lines of 5 to 6. So just however many boxes you need. And remember, they can be on sticky notes or you can just write them in. Either one is totally fine. But I am going to get started reading our book now. So, When Jessie Came Across the Sea. Once in a poor village far from here, there was a very small house with a slanting roof. Inside were 2 chairs, 2 narrow beds, and a table with a fine lace cloth. A pot-bellied stove warmed the place in winter and warmed thin soup. Jessie lived in that house with grandmother. They had 1 skinny cow, Miss Minnie, and a patch of garden. Carrots came up here and there, and sometimes a potato. And I know we didn't write it on this one, but remember how last time we kind of wrote down the setting? So we know that the setting where Jessie and Grandma live is a small village. And we can see it here. See, it's a very small village. So I think this story takes place a long time ago, away or very far from the United States. This doesn't look anything familiar to me. So I think this story takes place a long time ago, somewhere far away from the US. So I want you to remember to do your I think and I wonder stop and jots. In the morning, when the village boys went to the rabbi for lessons, Jessie went too. Grandmother insisted. At night, after supper, Jessie read aloud. She practiced her letters by the fire. Grandmother sewed lace. The coins she earned were dropped in a jar on the table. Now you read, Grandmother, and copy my good letters. Jessie liked being the teacher. Me? Learn to read and write? Grandmother scoffed. Huh. Sometime, you never know. You may want to read some things, Jessie said. You may want to write. Grandmother showed Jessie how to sew lace, but Jessie stuck herself often. Why do I have to learn? She cried. Sometime, you never know. You may want to sew some things, Grandmother answered. You may want to earn some money. So they have a good back and forth going. They're both pushing each other to do things that are out of their comfort zone. So I think only boys went to school. Like, they were the only ones allowed to go. Jessie's the only school. So I think Jessie's the only girl with all the boys. And I don't know if you guys heard me mention the word rabbi, but that is someone who typically lives with Jewish people, and they are almost like the mayor or the president of their village. They would make all the big decisions. And I also think it's amazing her grandma thinks it's important to read and write. That must not have been that common back then, because grandma doesn't know how to read and write. She's offering to teach her, but she obviously sees that it's important. So I think it's amazing her grandma thinks it's important to read and write, and it must not have been very common back then. Guys, I already have 3. You can totally do this. One evening, toward the end of the summer, the rabbi called the people of the village to the synagogue. The news from America is sad, said the rabbi. My good brother, Mordecai, has left this world. So that means he passed away. He died. The villagers sighed and shook their heads. Rest in peace, they said. Shortly before he died, my Mordecai sent me a ticket to America, the rabbi paused. He wanted me to join him there. America? The promised land? The voices rose as one. But alas, the rabbi sighed, I am the rabbi. How do I leave this village? How do I quit my people? He threw up his hands. Someone else must go in my place. Someone of my choosing. I think the rabbi must be like a mayor or something. He seems like he is in charge. Look how he's the one talking to everyone. They're all listening to him. And he's making the big decision. And he can't just leave because he's the one in charge of everyone. So I think the rabbi must be similar to a mayor or a president. Let's go ahead, my stop and jot. Later that night, many villagers came to the rabbi's house. Rabbi, listen. I must go to America, for I am strong. Rabbi, listen to good sense. I must go to America, for I am smart. Rabbi, listen to logic. I must go to America, for I am brave. The rabbi listened. How they boast and brag, he thought. Tonight I shall seek guidance from the Almighty. He told the villagers, you go home. Tomorrow I will choose. And I don't know if you can see this, but where it says Almighty is in capital. So the A in Almighty is capital. It's down where my finger is, down there. So he is referring to God because it's a capital A. So America must be a very desirable place. Everybody is fighting to go. So nobody wants to be in this village. Everybody really wants to go to America. I mean, there are 3 people that said, pick me, listen to me, like, you'd be a fool to not choose me. So everybody really wants to go. Earlier the next morning, Jessie and grandmother had a caller. I have decided, announced the rabbi. Jessie will go to America. My brother's widow has a dress shop in New York City. Her name is Kay, and Jessie can help with the sewing. She will comfort the good lady. Jessie's hand started to shake. America? So far away from grandmother. She bit her lip, for she must not cry in front of the rabbi. Don't make me go, she thought. You know best, grandmother spoke quietly to the rabbi. Oh, but her heart was breaking. Dear Jessie, alone on a ship to America, grandmother's heart said one thing, but her head said another. Jessie must go. So we've already found out that America is very desirable. People want to go. But when you look at this picture, does this look like two people that want to go? They look scared. They're scared to be separated. But she knows that Jessie has to go for all the opportunities. So I think I would be scared to travel alone. She seems very young for such a long trip. So to get to America, it's not going to be easy. To do all by yourself, I think she looks very young. Maybe about like 12 or 13 years old. So not much older than y'all. Getting on a ship all by yourself, going to a whole new country all alone. I would definitely be scared. I don't even think I'd be scared. I would be scared. A week passed quickly, then 2 more. As grandmother prepared Jessie for her journey, the morning the ship was to sail, it rained so hard there was no telling where the sky met the sea. America, good things await you there, grandmother had promised. Jessie stood at the rail, holding her hat against the wind and the rain. At her feet was a small trunk, packed with a few simple clothes and layers of lace. In Jessie's pocket was the tiny silver box with a tiny lace lining, but her mother's wedding band was not inside. Keep it safe for me, grandmother, she had whispered as they kissed goodbye. Grandmother, she called, but the boat slipped away from the dock, then into the channel and on toward the sea. Umbrellas faded in the mist. Rain pelted Jessie's face. It slid down the back of her collar. So this is what it looks like. Not very pretty. Does not seem very safe or exciting. It would not make me feel very good to leave if the sky looked like this. So I think she wants her grandma to keep her mother's ring safe because the trip will be dangerous and long. So I think she doesn't want to lose something that's really important to her, that wedding ring, on this trip. So she's letting grandma hold it. And I think she might think she won't survive it. I mean, I understand. I would not feel too confident if this was my starting point. If this is what it looked like. I would not feel very good getting on that ship. And that is where we're going to stop for today. I really, really like this book, and I hope you do too. Stay posted for tomorrow. Bye, everybody.